These are the 50 best JRPGs ever made. Not good games, the absolute masterpieces that define the genre. These are the games that made us fall in love with turn-based combat, epic stories, and characters we still think about years later. Some picks will make you nod, some will make you angry comment below, and that's the point. No fluff, no filler. Just pure JRPG excellence from number 50 to the undisputed king at number 1. Let's go.
Number 50, Phantasy Star II, Sega Genesis. Let's kick this off with a game that doesn't get nearly enough love, Phantasy Star II. While Final Fantasy was doing its thing on Nintendo, Sega had this sci-fi JRPG masterpiece that was darker, weirder, and honestly way ahead of its time. The vibe here is bleak. You're in a future where humanity's living under this AI system called Mother Brain. And spoiler alert, things go very wrong. The story tackles themes like environmentalism and the cost of technological dependence, which is pretty heavy for 1989. And that ending? Absolutely gutting. It's one of the boldest narrative choices in early JRPGs. No triumphant victory, just consequences and sacrifice. Combat's traditional, turn-based, sure, but the dungeon design is absolutely brutal. These mazes are confusing, unforgiving, and you will get lost. Some people hate that, but I think it adds to the oppressive atmosphere. You're supposed to feel trapped. The real tragedy is that this game lived in Final Fantasy's shadow for decades. In North America, Phantasy Star II actually released in March 1990, about 4 months before the first Final Fantasy hit the NES. Sega's Genesis was delivering next-generation RPG experiences, while the NES was just getting started with the genre. If you've never touched the Phantasy Star series because you assumed it was just Sega's Final Fantasy, you're sleeping on one of the most narratively ambitious JRPGs of the 16-bit era.
Alright, so Live Alive is one of those games where you're like, wait, this existed in 1994 and we're just now talking about it? Here's the hook. 7 different protagonists, 7 different time periods. You've got a caveman story with no dialogue, a Wild West revenge tale, a kung fu master training a successor, a mecha pilot in the near future, and more. Each chapter has its own gameplay style, its own tone, its own self-contained story. It's basically an anthology JRPG, and it's wild how well it works. The grid-based combat system lets you position your characters tactically, and each era throws different mechanical twists at you. The ninja chapter is a stealth game. The mecha chapter is a boss rush. The caveman chapter is pure environmental storytelling. It's constantly reinventing itself. And then, all these stories tie together in the final act in a way that's genuinely surprising. The twist villain reveal is one of the best in JRPG history, and I'm not spoiling it here. The 2022 remake finally brought this to the West officially, and it's gorgeous. If you missed it, fix that. Live Alive proves that experimentation and structure breaking can create something truly special.
Number 48, Parasite Eve, PlayStation. Parasite Eve is what happens when someone says, what if Resident Evil was a JRPG, and then actually pulls it off? You play as Aya Brea, an NYPD cop dealing with a biological horror outbreak in Manhattan on Christmas Eve. Mitochondria, yeah, the things from high school biology, are mutating people into monsters. It's body horror, it's sci-fi, it's survival horror, and somehow it all works as a turn-based RPG. The combat is this hybrid system where you move in real time, but attacks are turn-based with an ATB gauge. You're dodging, positioning, using cover, customizing weapons and armor with biological parts you rip off enemies. It feels tense in a way most JRPGs don't. The atmosphere is incredible. New York City is burning. The Opera House opening is genuinely creepy. The soundtrack by Yoko Shimomura is this haunting mix of piano and industrial noise. Parasite Eve only gets forgotten because it's so different from traditional JRPGs that people don't know how to categorize it. But if you want something that breaks the mold while still scratching that RPG progression itch, this is essential. Square took a huge risk here, and it paid off. Number 47, Grandia, PlayStation. Grandia is pure adventure, and I mean that in the best way possible. This is a game about exploration, discovery, and the joy of just seeing what's over the next hill. Justin, the protagonist, is an adventurer, not a chosen one, not a brooding anti-hero, just a kid who wants to explore the world. And the game captures that sense of wonder better than almost anything else. The world feels huge, mysterious, and alive. You're constantly finding new towns, dungeons, and secrets. The combat system is phenomenal. It uses a timeline bar where you can see when everyone's turn is coming, and you can interrupt enemy attacks by timing your moves right. Canceling a boss's ultimate ability at the last second never gets old. It's strategic, it's satisfying, and it still holds up today. The character development is surprisingly strong too. Sue, Fina, Rap, Milda, these aren't just party members, they're people with arcs, growth, and real chemistry with Justin. Grandia's tragedy is that it came out in a ridiculously stacked year for JRPGs, and the PS1 version had a rough localization that buried some of its charm. The HD remaster fixed a lot of that, but this game still doesn't get mentioned in the same breath as Final Fantasy VII or Xenogears, and that's a crime.
Number 46, The Legend of Dragoon, PlayStation. The Legend of Dragoon is Sony's big swing at making their own Final Fantasy, and honestly, they got closer than people give them credit for. The hook here is the addition system, timed button presses during attacks that let you chain combos. It's simple but addictive. Nail the timing and you're doing massive damage and building up your Dragoon meter. Screw it up and you're leaving damage on the table. It makes every single battle feel active and engaging, even random encounters. Then you transform into Dragoons, basically this game's version of summons and limit breaks combined, and you're flying around as a Dragon Knight, casting devastating magic. The transformation animations are gorgeous, the designs are iconic, and it just feels cool. The story leans hard into melodrama, Dart's revenge quest, the tragic love story with Shauna, the betrayals, the dark lore about the Winglies and the Dragon campaign. It's a lot, and it's not subtle, but it commits. That final boss sequence is an endurance test that still haunts people. Legend of Dragoon's problem was timing and marketing. It came out in 2000 when the PS2 was on the horizon, and Sony didn't push it hard enough. But there's a reason people are still begging for a remake. This game has heart.
Number 45, Skies of Arcadia. Skies of Arcadia is what happens when you make a JRPG about sky pirates and just let the pure adventure energy take over. You're Vice, an air pirate with actual morals, sailing the skies in your airship, discovering floating islands, fighting an evil empire, and recruiting a crew. It's One Piece meets Final Fantasy, and it's glorious. The ship-to-ship combat is a whole separate system from the regular battles, and it's fantastic. You're managing your ship's HP, your crew's morale, picking when to use special cannons or evasive maneuvers. The bounty system encourages you to hunt down wanted pirates for rewards. The exploration is peak, I wonder what's behind that cloud vibes. The characters are genuinely likable. Vice is optimistic without being annoying, Aika is fun and capable, Fina's got a mysterious backstory that actually pays off. The villains are memorable, especially Ramirez. The tragedy, Skies came out on the Dreamcast right as it was dying. The GameCube port was expensive and harder to find. So this incredible, joyful adventure game got buried by circumstance. If you can play it, whether through emulation or tracking down a copy, do it. This is one of the most purely fun JRPGs ever made.
Number 44, Lost Odyssey, Xbox 360. Lost Odyssey is Hironobu Sakaguchi, the creator of Final Fantasy, saying, "Fine, I'll make my own Final Fantasy," and then actually doing it. You play as Kaim, an immortal who's lived for 1,000 years and has seen too much. The hook here is the 1,000 Years of Dreams short stories you unlock. These are text-based vignettes written by award-winning author Kiyoshi Shigematsu, and they're heartbreaking. Kaim remembers a daughter who grew old and died.
He remembers wars, loves, losses. It's some of the best writing in any JRPG, period. The combat is classic turn-based with a ring system. You time button presses to add bonus damage or effects. It's not revolutionary, but it's polished and satisfying. The magic system is deep, the boss fights are challenging, and the 4-disc epic length gives you tons of content. Nobuo Uematsu did the soundtrack, and it's as beautiful and haunting as you'd expect. Lost Odyssey's tragedy is that it was an Xbox 360 exclusive JRPG. In Japan, the 360 barely existed. In the West, JRPG fans were mostly on PlayStation. Microsoft funded it, but they also doomed it to niche status. If this had been on PS3 or multi-platform, we'd be talking about it alongside the Final Fantasy greats.
Number 43, Golden Sun, Game Boy Advance. Golden Sun is the game that proved the GBA could deliver a full-scale console-quality JRPG experience, and it absolutely delivered. The Jin system is the hook. These elemental creatures can be equipped to change your character's class, abilities, and stats. Mix and match them, and you unlock different job classes with wildly different skill sets. The customization is deep, and experimenting with different Jin setups never gets old. Then there's the Synergy system, magic that you use both in combat and in the overworld to solve puzzles. You're moving pillars, freezing waterfalls, growing vines to climb. The dungeons feel like Zelda dungeons, but in a JRPG, and it's brilliant. The story is classic Chosen One stuff. You're trying to stop the elemental lighthouses from being lit, but the presentation is stellar. The sprite work is gorgeous, the summoning animations are absurdly detailed for a handheld, and the soundtrack slaps. The problem with Golden Sun is that it ends on a cliffhanger. The story doesn't conclude until Golden Sun: The Lost Age, which is basically the second half of one massive game. Some people bounced off that, but if you commit to both games, you get one of the best JRPG experiences on any handheld ever made.
Number 42, Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door, GameCube. Thousand-Year Door is the gold standard for Mario RPGs, and honestly, it might be the funniest JRPG ever made. The writing is sharp, witty, and surprisingly edgy for a Mario game. You've got a band of thieves called the Robo Gang, a Goomba with a gangster backstory, a Yoshi kid who talks in third person, and Vivian, a ghost who joins you after being bullied by her sisters. The localization is fantastic, full of personality and charm. The combat is timed button presses for everything: attacks, defense, even your partner's moves. It's simple, but keeps you engaged every single fight. The badge system lets you customize Mario's abilities, and the crowd mechanic where the audience reacts to your performance is such a fun touch. The world is full of secrets, side quests, and goofy characters. The Glitz Pit wrestling arc is a full-on detective story. The train mystery chapter is a murder mystery. It's constantly surprising you. The tragedy? Nintendo didn't seem to understand what made this game special. The sequels dropped the turn-based combat, and fans have been begging for a return to this style ever since. The remake, coming in 2024, is a chance to remind the world why this is a masterpiece.
Number 41, Star Ocean: The Second Story R, PlayStation and Remake. Star Ocean: The Second Story is one of those games where the scope just feels absurd. 2 planets, 80+ recruitable characters, multiple story paths depending on who you pick at the start. It's huge. The real hook is the private action system. In towns, you can split up your party and trigger unique character interactions and side quests. Who you recruit, how you treat them, and which private actions you see determine the ending you get. There are 80 endings. 80! You're not seeing everything in one playthrough, or even 5. Combat is real-time and fast-paced. You're dodging, attacking, using skills, and controlling one character while the AI handles the others. It's chaotic, but satisfying when you get into the rhythm. The item creation system is borderline broken in the best way. You can write books, forge weapons, cook food,
and if you exploit it right, you can trivialize the difficulty. Or you can ignore it and just enjoy the ride. The 2023 remake, The Second Story R, is the definitive version. Updated graphics, quality of life fixes, and it finally gives this classic the respect it deserves. If you've never played Star Ocean, this is where you start.
Number 40, Bravely Default 2, Nintendo Switch. Bravely Default 2 is old-school Final Fantasy for people who miss old-school Final Fantasy. The job system is incredible. You've got 20+ jobs to unlock and level up, and you can mix and match abilities from different jobs to create custom builds. Want a white mage who can counterattack? A monk who casts black magic? Go for it. The experimentation is half the fun. The Brave and Default system is the twist. You can default to guard and bank turns, then unleash them all at once with Brave for massive burst damage. Or you can go into turn debt and act 4 times in one turn, leaving yourself vulnerable. It's risk-reward strategy in every fight. The story is straightforward. 4 heroes, 4 crystals, save the world. But it knows that and doesn't overstay its welcome. The characters are likable, the world is gorgeous, and the boss fights are tough but fair. Bravely Default 2's problem is that it shares a name with a series that had a controversial first sequel, so some people skipped it, thinking it was more of the same. But this is a return to form, a refinement of the formula, and one of the best turn-based JRPGs on the Switch.
Number 39, Valkyria Chronicles 4, Multi-Platform. Valkyria Chronicles 4 takes the tactical RPG formula, throws in World War II aesthetics, and gives you one of the most unique strategy games out there. The Blitz system blends turn-based strategy with real-time movement and aiming. You select a unit, then directly control them, run them across the battlefield, take cover, aim at weak points, fire. It's like XCOM meets a third-person shooter, and it's brilliant. The story is set during a fictional European war, and it doesn't shy away from the horrors of combat. Characters die, war is hell, but it also has moments of hope, camaraderie, and genuine emotion. Claude, the protagonist, is a strong leader dealing with impossible odds. The potential system gives every character unique traits that activate in battle based on their personality. A character might panic near fire, or get a boost when fighting alongside a friend. It adds so much flavor. Valkyria Chronicles 4 got overlooked because the series had a rough patch, with VC2 and VC3 being PSP exclusive. And by the time VC4 came out, people had moved on. But this is the best the series has ever been. And if you like strategy RPGs, you're doing yourself a disservice by skipping it.
Number 38, Tales of Berseria. Tales of Berseria is dark, angry, and unapologetically brutal, and that's exactly why it works. You play as Velvet, a woman consumed by revenge after her brother-in-law sacrifices her little brother in a demonic ritual. She's not a hero. She's not even trying to be good. She's angry, broken, and out for blood. And the game lets her be that without trying to redeem her too quickly. The combat is fast, flashy, and combo-heavy. You're chaining arts, breaking enemy souls, and unleashing devastating combos. Velvet's Demon Arm mechanic lets her consume enemies for massive damage and healing. It's aggressive and satisfying. The party is full of misfits and broken people. A demon who just wants to eat, a pirate who's hunting a legend, a witch seeking forbidden knowledge. They're not good people, but they're compelling people, and watching them grow and bond is the heart of the game. Berseria came out right after Zestiria, which was divisive, to put it kindly. A lot of people were burned out on Tales games and skipped this, which is a tragedy because Berseria is one of the best in the entire series. If you want a JRPG that doesn't hold back on emotion and darkness, this is it.
Number 37, Fire Emblem Three Houses, Nintendo Switch. Three Houses took Fire Emblem from a niche tactical RPG series to a mainstream phenomenon. and it earned every bit of that success. The hook is the school setting and the 3 houses. You pick one, Black Eagles, Blue Lions, or Golden Deer, and that choice determines your entire story path. And these aren't minor differences. Each route has completely different perspectives on the war, different villains, different emotional beats. You're not getting the full picture unless you play all 3. The monastery between battles lets you build relationships with students and faculty through support conversations, meals, and activities. The tea time mechanic is goofy but endearing. The relationship building is addictive. Combat is classic Fire Emblem. Permadeath, optional. Weapon triangles, grid-based tactics. But the class system is more open than ever. You can turn anyone into anything with enough training. Want Lysithea as a sword-wielding assassin? Go for it. The Crimson Flower route, where you side with Edelgard, is legitimately controversial because it makes you question everything. The writing is ambitious, messy, and emotionally charged. 3 Houses revitalized Fire Emblem, brought in tons of new fans, and proved that turn-based tactical RPGs could still dominate. If you skipped it because you thought Fire Emblem wasn't for you, reconsider.
Number 36, Unicorn Overlord. Unicorn Overlord is Vanillaware saying, what if we made a tactical RPG that looks like a playable painting, and then absolutely nailing it? The art is stunning. This is the same studio behind Odin Sphere and 13 Sentinels, and the 2D hand-drawn aesthetic is jaw-dropping. Every character, every battlefield, every animation, it's gorgeous. The fantasy world of Fevrith feels lived in and epic at the same time. The hook here is the real-time tactical battles with automated unit combat. You're positioning squads on the battlefield, and when they clash, the battle plays out automatically based on the skills and formations you set up beforehand. It's like Fire Emblem meets an RTS, and the strategy comes from preparation and positioning rather than micromanaging every action. The unit customization is deep. You're building squads with different class combinations, equipping them with skills and finding synergies. A frontline tank with healers in the back, a cavalry charge unit, a magic artillery squad. The possibilities are massive, and experimenting with different builds is half the fun. The story is classic liberation fantasy. You're Elaine reclaiming your kingdom from an empire. It's not groundbreaking narratively, but it's told well, and the world building with different nations, races, and political factions gives it depth. The base building and recruitment mechanics add a layer of progression. You're liberating towns, recruiting characters to your cause, and watching your army grow. Unicorn Overlord came out in early 2024 and immediately became one of the best tactical RPGs in years. If you love strategy, gorgeous art, and deep customization, this is essential. Vanillaware doesn't miss.
Number 35, Metaphor ReFantazio. So, Metaphor ReFantazio is what happens when Persona Team says, what if we made a fantasy JRPG instead? And the answer is, it's incredible. This is Atlus doing high fantasy, but with all the systems and polish they perfected over decades of Persona. You've got the archetype system, basically Persona's job system, where you're unlocking and combining different combat classes. The time management structure, where you're balancing dungeon crawling with building relationships and stats. The social commentary woven into the narrative about prejudice, class systems, and power. The world building is phenomenal. This isn't generic fantasy. It's a kingdom dealing with racism between different tribes, political intrigue around a royal succession, and existential threats. The anxiety system, where characters deal with fear and stress in combat, adds a psychological layer most JRPGs don't touch. Combat is turn-based with press-turn mechanics, similar to SMT. Exploit weaknesses, get extra actions, but enemies can do the same to you. Boss fights are brutal and require actual strategy. The real magic is that Atlus took everything they learned from Persona 3, 4, and 5 and applied it to a completely new setting. It feels fresh while still being instantly comfortable if you're a fan of their work. This came out in 2024 and immediately became one of the best JRPGs of the generation.
Number 34, Shin Megami Tensei 5 for Nintendo Switch. SMT5 is what you play when you want Persona's combat,
but without the friendship speeches and the power of belief. This is hard, dark, and philosophically brutal. You're navigating a post-apocalyptic Tokyo that's been fused with a demon realm, making pacts with demons and choosing which faction's vision for the world you support. And those choices matter. The endings are radically different, and none of them are good in a traditional sense. You're picking between order through authoritarianism, chaos through destruction, or trying to forge a new path. The press-turn combat system is the best turn-based battle system ever made. Exploit a weakness, get an extra turn. Miss or hit a resistance, lose turns. It's simple, elegant, and makes every decision matter. Boss fights are punishing. You will die, you will need to adjust your demon team, and when you finally win, it feels earned. The demon fusion system is endlessly deep. You're recruiting hundreds of demons, fusing them to create stronger ones, passing down skills, and building the perfect team for each situation. SMT5's problem is accessibility. It doesn't hold your hand. It doesn't care if you're struggling. The story is deliberately vague and requires you to piece things together. But if you want a challenge and you're tired of JRPGs that treat you like a kid, this is essential.
Number 33, Chained Echoes. Chained Echoes is a love letter to 16-bit JRPGs made by basically one person, and it's better than most AAA attempts at the same thing. The pixel art is gorgeous, like actually gorgeous, not just good for an indie. The world is massive, filled with secrets, hidden bosses, and optional content. The story deals with war, mechs, political intrigue, and a cast of characters who all have their own motivations and arcs. Combat has no random encounters. Every fight is visible and avoidable. The overdrive system keeps battles dynamic. Your party has a meter that fluctuates, and you want to keep it in the green zone for bonuses. Let it go too high or too low, and you're penalized. It forces you to mix up your strategy instead of spamming the same attacks. The skill system lets you customize every character extensively. There are no levels. You get stronger by finding materials and upgrading your skills directly. It's different, and it works. The mech battles are integrated into the story and combat seamlessly. You're not just suddenly piloting robots, they're part of the world, part of the strategy. Chained Echoes came out in 2022 with zero marketing, no big publisher, and just word of mouth. The fact that it's even on this list shows how good it is. If you love classic JRPGs and somehow missed this, fix that immediately.
Number 32, Lunar, Silver Star Story Complete, PlayStation. Lunar is the coziest, most wholesome JRPG you'll ever play, and I mean that as the highest compliment. The story is simple. Alex wants to be a hero like his idol Dragon Master, Dyne, and he goes on an adventure to save the world and rescue the girl he loves. It's not trying to deconstruct anything or subvert expectations. It's just a pure, earnest adventure, and it's told so well that it works. The character interactions are the heart of the game. The party banter, the animated cutscenes, which were mind-blowing for PS1, the voice acting, it all comes together to make you genuinely care about these people. Luna's songs, the romance between Alex and Luna, Galeon's betrayal, it hits emotionally because the game earns it. Combat is straightforward turn-based with positioning mechanics. Where you place your characters on the battlefield matters for attack range and defense. It's not revolutionary, but it's solid. The working design's localization is divisive. They added a lot of humor and pop culture references that weren't in the original. Some people love it, some people hate it, but it's undeniably memorable. Lunar's problem is that it's aggressively traditional in an era when everyone was trying to be edgy and experimental. But sometimes you just want a feel-good adventure with heart, and Lunar delivers that better than almost anything else.
31. Breath of Fire 3, PlayStation. Breath of Fire 3 is the moment the series found its identity, and it's still the best one. You play as Ryu,
a dragon who starts the game as a child and grows up over the course of the adventure. That childhood section is surprisingly lengthy and sets up emotional stakes that pay off later. You're not just saving the world, you're dealing with what it means to be the last of your kind. The dragon transformation system is the hook. You fuse different dragon genes to create custom dragon forms with different abilities, strengths, and weaknesses. You can become a speed-focused dragon, a tank, a magic nuke. It's all about experimentation. And in boss fights, going full dragon is this desperate, powerful move that can turn the tide. The Master System lets you apprentice under different teachers to learn unique skills and shape your character's growth. It adds customization and replay value. The fishing minigame is weirdly addictive. The fairy village building gives you a base to develop. The world feels lived in and full of side content. Breath of Fire 3 gets overlooked because it came out during the PS1 Golden Age when every month had a new classic. But it's got heart, style, and one of the most satisfying progression systems in any JRPG. The PSP version is the definitive way to play it.
Number 30. Ni no Kuni Wrath of the White Witch, PlayStation 3. Ni no Kuni is what you get when Level 5 teams up with Studio Ghibli. And yeah, it's exactly as beautiful as you're imagining. The art direction is stunning. This genuinely looks like a playable Ghibli film. The animations, the character designs, the world, it's all gorgeous. Joe Hisaishi did the soundtrack, and it's sweeping, emotional, and perfect. You play as Oliver, a kid who loses his mother and discovers he can travel to a parallel world where he might be able to save her. The story is earnest, heartfelt, and unafraid to be emotional. It's about grief, growing up, and finding the courage to help others even when you're hurting. The familiar system is like Pokemon but integrated into the world naturally. You're capturing creatures, evolving them, and using them in real-time combat. The battles are a bit clunky. It's not as polished as a dedicated action RPG, but it's serviceable. The alchemy and side quests give you tons to do. Helping townspeople with their emotional problems ties into the theme of healing broken hearts. Ni no Kuni's flaw is that it's a bit slow-paced and hand-holdy, especially in the early hours. But if you let yourself sink into the world and vibe, it's a magical experience. It's comfort food JRPG, and sometimes that's exactly what you need.
Number 29. Suikoden V, PlayStation 2. Suikoden V is the series' redemption arc after the disaster that was Suikoden IV, and it's a return to everything that made the series great. The 108 Stars of Destiny system is back in full force. You're recruiting a massive cast of characters to join your cause, building an army, and developing your headquarters into a full-blown castle. The sense of growth and community is incredible. The story is political intrigue done right. You're a prince caught in a web of conspiracies, betrayals, and civil war. The Queen's campaign, the Godwin family's machinations, the slow-burn revenge plot. It's Game of Thrones before Game of Thrones was the cultural touchstone. Combat is traditional turn-based with formation mechanics. How you arrange your party affects their abilities and bonuses. The duels and war battles add variety, and the tactical battles where you're commanding entire armies are tense and strategic. The pacing is slow. The first 10 hours are a lot of setup, but it pays off. When the war actually starts and you're watching characters you've grown to care about die or betray you, it hits hard. Suikoden V came out in 2006, at the tail end of the PS2's life, and got buried. But it's the culmination of everything Suikoden tried to do, and it deserves to be remembered as one of the best PS2 JRPGs.
Number 28. Dragon Quest III, the Super Nintendo Remake. Dragon Quest III is the foundation. This is the game that codified the JRPG party system, the class system, the world exploration structure. Everything you take for granted started here. The hook is the job system. You create your party from scratch, choosing classes like warrior, mage, cleric, thief, and more.
You can change classes mid-game, keeping some learned spells and skills. It's flexible, it's deep, and it was revolutionary in 1988. The world exploration is epic. You start in one continent, then gradually unlock the entire world. And here's the twist. The world map is Earth. You're visiting fantasy versions of real-world locations. It's a cool touch that makes the adventure feel grounded. The story is simple. Defeat the demon Lord Baramos, then discover the true threat. But it doesn't need to be complex. The journey is the point. The Super Nintendo Remake is the definitive version until the HD 2D version dropped recently. It added better graphics, quality of life improvements, and a monster recruitment system that influenced later DQ games. Dragon Quest III might feel basic by modern standards, but that's because every JRPG since has been building on what this game established. It's required reading for anyone who wants to understand the genre's history.
Number 27, Octopath Traveler 2 Multiplatform. Octopath Traveler 2 took everything the first game did and fixed every problem. And the result is one of the best turn-based JRPGs in years. The HD 2D art style is stunning. It's pixel art with modern lighting and depth of field effects, and it creates this painterly, dreamlike aesthetic. Every area looks like a diorama. You've got 8 characters, each with their own self-contained story. But unlike the first game, these stories actually intersect in meaningful ways. Characters comment on each other's quests, there's a true final chapter that ties everything together, and the world feels cohesive instead of fragmented. The combat is the boost and break system perfected. You're saving up boost points to unleash powerful attacks, breaking enemy defenses by hitting their weaknesses, and timing everything for maximum damage. The job system lets you mix and match abilities for wild combos. The day-night cycle adds depth. Different NPCs appear at different times. Different path actions are available, and the world changes. You're interrogating people, stealing items, charming NPCs to follow you. It's immersive. Octopath 2 is everything a sequel should be. It keeps what worked, fixes what didn't, and adds enough new ideas to feel fresh. If you bounced off the first game, give this one a shot.
Number 26, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 on the Nintendo Switch. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is ambitious, messy, incredibly anime, and absolutely brilliant once it clicks. The blade system is the core. You're bonding with blades, living weapons with their own personalities, and they determine your combat role, abilities, and playstyle. Rare blades are gacha randomized, which is controversial, but finding the perfect blade combo is addictive. Combat is real-time, but with layers. You're auto-attacking to charge arts, using arts to charge specials, chaining specials into blade combos to inflict status effects, then driver combos to knock enemies down, and finally, chain attacks for massive burst damage. It's complex, but when you master it, it's euphoric. The story is genuinely emotional. Pyra and Mitra's arc, Rex's growth from naive kid to hero, the twist about Elysium, it all builds to a heartfelt conclusion. The English voice acting is divisive, some love it, some can't stand it, but the story earns its emotional beats. The world design is incredible. Massive titans you're exploring, each with unique ecosystems and secrets. The sense of scale is unmatched. Xenoblade 2's problem is the slow tutorial. The first 10 to 20 hours don't properly explain the combat, and a lot of people bounce off before it gets good. But if you push through, you're rewarded with one of the most mechanically satisfying and emotionally resonant JRPGs on the Switch.
Number 25, Tales of Vesperia on the Xbox 360. Tales of Vesperia has Yuri Lowell, and that alone makes it special. Yuri is not your typical JRPG protagonist. He's an adult, he's cynical, he makes morally gray choices, and he's willing to kill people who deserve it without angsting about it for 20 hours. The scene where he executes a corrupt noble who keeps escaping justice through legal loopholes? Chef's kiss. That moment defines him. The combat is fast, flashy, combo-heavy action. You're chaining artes, juggling enemies, building up overlimit from mystic artes, which have absurdly hype animations. It's not as technical as some later Tales games, but it's satisfying and accessible. The party is fantastic. Flynn's idealism clashing with Yuri's pragmatism, Estelle's growth from sheltered princess to capable fighter, Raven being the comic relief with a tragic backstory, Rita being an explosion-obsessed mage. They all have chemistry. The world building with Blastia technology, the themes of justice versus law, the slow reveal of the Adephagos threat, it's all well executed. Vesperia's tragedy is that it was originally an Xbox 360 exclusive in Japan, where the 360 didn't exist. The definitive version came out a decade later, but it's the best Tales game for a lot of people, and Yuri is one of the most refreshing protagonists in the genre.
Number 24, Shadow Hearts Covenant, PlayStation 2. Shadow Hearts Covenant is weird, dark, hilarious, and completely unlike anything else. You're in an alternate history World War I Europe, where demons, magic, and secret societies are real. The tone swings wildly from body horror to slapstick comedy, and somehow it works. You've got a gay wrestler vampire, a cursed doll possessed by a daughter's soul, a German soldier with a talking cat superweapon. It's unhinged in the best way. The Judgment Ring combat system is genius. Every action has a ring with colored zones. Hit the right timing, you succeed. Hit the critical zone, you deal extra damage. Miss, you fail. It makes every action tense and engaging, and mastering the timing feels incredible. The fusion system lets Yuri transform into various demon forms, each with different stats and abilities. The customization is deep, and the transformations look awesome. The story deals with loss, redemption, and cosmic horror without losing its sense of humor. The relationship between Yuri and Corinne is surprisingly sweet. Shadow Hearts Covenant is a cult classic that never got the mainstream recognition it deserved. It's stuck on PS2 with no modern ports, and the series died after the third game. But if you can play it, it's an absolute gem. A perfect blend of darkness, heart, and pure weirdness.
Number 23, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, Multi-Platform. Infinite Wealth is proof that the Yakuza/Like a Dragon series can do turn-based combat just as well as brawling, and maybe even better. You're playing as Ichiban again, and the story takes him to Hawaii. The shift in setting is massive. You're dealing with different cultures, homelessness, exploitation, and Ichiban's search for his mother. It's emotional, it's funny, it's ridiculous, and it's incredibly heartfelt. The combat is turn-based with positioning mechanics. Where you move affects attack range, knockback, and environmental interactions. You're smashing enemies into walls, using nearby objects as weapons, and tag teaming with party members. It's dynamic in a way turn-based combat rarely is. The job system is expanded with new classes, and the synergy attacks between party members are flashy and satisfying. Kiryu is back as a party member, and his Dragon of Dojima style is implemented into the turn-based system perfectly. The side content is absurd. Animal Crossing-style island management, dating mechanics, kart racing, Pokemon-style creature collecting. There's so much to do, it's overwhelming in the best way. Infinite Wealth is the best Like a Dragon has ever been. If you've been curious about the series or only played the brawler games, this is the perfect entry point.
Number 22, Persona 5 Royal, Multi-Platform. Persona 5 Royal is the game that brought JRPGs back into mainstream conversation, and it earned every bit of that hype. The style is immaculate. The UI, the menus, the animations, the music, everything oozes cool. It's so well designed that other games have been trying to copy it ever since. The Phantom Thieves premise is perfect. You're high schoolers who enter the cognitive world to steal the corrupted hearts of evil adults. It's wish fulfillment, fighting back against authority figures who abuse their power, and it resonates. Combat is press turn with persona fusion. Exploit weaknesses, use baton pass to chain attacks between party members, unleash all-out attacks. The boss fights are memorable, and the palace dungeons are actual designed levels instead of random corridors. The social sim aspect is addictive. You're balancing dungeon crawling with building relationships, improving your stats, and managing your time. Every day is a choice, and optimizing your schedule is its own game. Royal adds a whole new semester, new party members, new mechanics, and a better ending. It's the definitive version. The tragedy is that Persona 5 set such a high bar that every JRPG since gets compared to it, often unfairly. But make no mistake, Persona 5 Royal is one of the best JRPGs ever made, and its influence will be felt for a generation.
Number 21, Final Fantasy Tactics. Final Fantasy Tactics is the game that proved tactical RPGs could tell stories as complex and morally ambiguous as the best political dramas, and it's still the gold standard for the genre. Forget Chosen Ones and saving the world from ancient evil. This is Game of Thrones and Ivalice. You're Ramza Beolve, a noble caught in a web of political conspiracies, religious corruption, and class warfare. The War of the Lions isn't about good versus evil. It's about power, manipulation, and the people crushed between warring factions. The story is dense. The 50 Years' War, the Corpse Brigade uprising, the Church of Glabados covering up the truth about Saint Ajora, Delita's ruthless climb to power. It's layered, cynical, and unapologetically mature. The script demands attention, and the payoff is one of the most satisfying narratives in any JRPG. The job system is legendary. You've got 20+ jobs to unlock, and the customization is absurd. Every character can learn abilities from multiple jobs and carry them over. A knight with black magic, a monk who can use time magic, a calculator who nukes the entire battlefield with math. The possibilities are endless, and min-maxing builds is half the fun. The grid-based tactical combat is punishing, but fair. Height advantages matter, charge times matter, positioning, terrain, weather, everything affects the battle. The difficulty spikes are real, and you will get destroyed if you're not prepared. But when you pull off a perfect combo or survive an impossible fight, it feels incredible. The soundtrack by Hitoshi Sakamoto is phenomenal. Trisection, anti-pyretic, backbone story. It's all orchestral brilliance that elevates every moment. FFT's tragedy is that it came out late in the PS1's life and got a rough original translation that buried some of its brilliance. The PSP War of the Lions version fixed the script, but introduced slowdown issues. But regardless of version, Final Fantasy Tactics is essential. It's proof that tactical RPGs can be as narratively ambitious as any other genre, and it's still the benchmark every strategy RPG gets measured against.
Number 20, EarthBound, SNES. EarthBound is the weirdest, most charming, most unforgettable JRPG you'll ever play. And it bombed so hard on release that Nintendo didn't bring Mother 3 to the West for decades. You're a kid named Ness in a modern-day setting fighting aliens with baseball bats, yo-yos, and psychic powers. There are no swords, no medieval kingdoms, no crystals, just suburban America, quirky NPCs, and existential horror lurking underneath the surface. The writing is what makes this special. The humor is absurd, but never random. You're fighting new age retro hippies, cranky ladies, and unassuming local guys. You order pizza mid-dungeon. Your dad is a phone. The Runaway Five are a blues band stuck in debt. It's simultaneously goofy and genuine. But then you get to Gygus, and the tone shifts completely. The final boss is pure psychological horror, an incomprehensible entity that can't even maintain a form anymore. The battle is unsettling, abstract, and genuinely disturbing. It's one of the most memorable final bosses in gaming. The rolling HP system is brilliant. Damage doesn't happen instantly, it scrolls down. So if a character takes lethal damage, you can heal them before the counter hits 0. It adds tension to every fight. EarthBound's marketing campaign in the US was "This game stinks," complete with scratch and sniff ads. It was a disaster. The game flopped. But it became a cult classic, influencing everything from Undertale to Amori. If you've never played it, the vibes alone are worth the trip.
Number 19, Final Fantasy IX, PlayStation. Final Fantasy IX is Sakaguchi's love letter to classic Final Fantasy.
and it's the most heartfelt game in the entire series. After 7 and 8 went sci-fi and futuristic, 9 returned to fantasy roots. Medieval kingdoms, black mages, airships, crystals, it's all here, but refined and elevated. The art direction is storybook beautiful, and the pre-rendered backgrounds are some of the best on PS1. Zidane is a breath of fresh air as a protagonist. He's optimistic, flirty, genuinely kind, and his arc about accepting his origins is powerful. Vivi's existential crisis about being a manufactured black mage with a limited lifespan is heartbreaking. Steiner's growth from rigid knight to someone who questions authority is satisfying. Garnet finding her voice, literally and figuratively, is beautiful. The trance system replaces limit breaks, and while it's less controllable, it triggers automatically when your meter fills, it creates desperate moments where you're trying to survive long enough to trance. The ability system tied to equipment is fantastic. You equip gear to learn abilities, and once mastered, you can unequip the item and keep the skill. It encourages experimentation and creates interesting gear choices beyond just stats. The Chocobo side quest, Tetramaster card game, and optional bosses give you tons of post-game content. The story's themes of life, death, and legacy hit hard. 9 gets overlooked because it came out at the end of the PS1's life, when everyone was focused on the PS2. But it's the most complete, most emotionally resonant Final Fantasy, and it deserves way more love.
Number 18, Dragon Quest VIII Journey of the Cursed King, PlayStation 2. Dragon Quest VIII was the game that proved the series could work in 3D, and it's still one of the most beautiful JRPGs ever made. The cel-shaded art style by Akira Toriyama is timeless. The overworld is massive and fully explorable. There are no random encounters. You see enemies on the field, and you can avoid them if you want. Running through fields, exploring dungeons, finding hidden treasure, it all feels like a grand adventure. The story is simple but effective. Your kingdom's been cursed, the king's a troll, the princess is a horse, and you're setting out to fix it and get revenge on the jester Dolmagus who caused it all. It's straightforward, but the characters carry it. Yangus is a lovable thief with a Cockney accent. Jessica is a mage dealing with family tragedy and possessed by a demon at one point. Angelo is a womanizing Templar knight with a secret past. The party banter and skits add so much personality. The skill point system lets you customize each character's growth. You're investing points into different weapon types or abilities, and every choice feels meaningful. The voice acting was a first for mainline Dragon Quest, and it's fantastic. The localization is charming without being obnoxious. Dragon Quest VIII is comfort food JRPG perfection. It's not trying to reinvent the wheel, it's just doing classic JRPG adventuring better than almost anyone else. The 3DS version adds more content, but the PS2 original has the superior presentation.
Number 17, Final Fantasy V. Final Fantasy V has the best job system in any Final Fantasy and, honestly, in any JRPG. Fight me. You've got 26 jobs to unlock and master, and you can mix and match abilities from different jobs to create absurd combinations. A white mage with Spellblade, a berserker with time magic, a mime who can dual wield and spam the strongest abilities for free. The customization is endless, and the game actively encourages you to experiment. The story is lighter than 4 or 6. Bartz is a wanderer who gets caught up in saving the world, and the tone is more adventurous than tragic. Exdeath is a hammy villain. He's literally an evil tree, but he works. The real joy is the journey and the party dynamics. Galuf's sacrifice is genuinely emotional, and his granddaughter, Kryl, taking his place hits hard. Ferris's backstory as a pirate captain who's actually Princess Sarasa is a great twist, handled with surprising nuance. The difficulty curve is perfect. Bosses require strategy and smart job usage. The optional super bosses like Omega and Shinryu are legendary challenges that still haunt players.
FF5 didn't come to the West on SNES, so it got overshadowed by 4 and 6. But the GBA version finally gave it the localization it deserved, and now there's no excuse. If you like build crafting, job systems, or just pure mechanical satisfaction, Final Fantasy V is mandatory.
Number 16, Suikoden II, PlayStation. Suikoden II is the best game in the series, one of the best PS1 JRPGs, and it's criminally underrated because Konami printed like 12 copies. The 108 Stars of Destiny recruitment is the hook. You're building an army, one character at a time, and each recruit has a story, a personality, and a role in your growing headquarters. Watching your base transform from a rundown castle into a thriving community is incredibly satisfying. The story is a war epic. You're a childhood friend of Joey, and circumstances tear you apart. He's on one side of the conflict, you're on the other. The betrayal, the tragedy, the impossible choices, it's Game of Thrones level political drama, but with heart. The duel system, war battles, and traditional turn-based combat give you variety. The rune system lets you customize magic and abilities. The cooking minigame, the bath scene, the theatrical performances, there's so much charm baked into the world. Luca Blight is one of the most terrifying villains in JRPG history. The sequence where it takes 3 full parties and an ambush to take him down, and he still almost wins? Legendary. Suikoden II's problem was timing and distribution. It came out in late 1999 with almost no marketing, limited print run, and got buried. Original copies now cost hundreds of dollars, but if you can play it, emulation, PSN, whatever, do it. This is essential JRPG history.
At number 15, we have Dragon Quest V for the SNES. Dragon Quest V is the most emotionally devastating game in the series, and it does it with the simplest premise. You live an entire life. The game spans 3 generations. You're a kid traveling with your dad, then tragedy strikes. You're enslaved for years. You escape, grow up, get married, have children, and then your kids join you on the adventure. No other JRPG does generational storytelling like this. The marriage choice is genuinely difficult. Bianca, your childhood friend who's been through everything with you, or Nera, the refined noble you barely know but who offers stability. There's no wrong answer, but the choice feels heavy because you've lived with these characters. The monster recruitment system lets you recruit defeated enemies to join your party. It influenced Pokemon, and it's still satisfying here. Building a team of monsters alongside your human party members adds tons of variety. The reveal that you're the legendary hero's father, not the hero yourself, is a brilliant subversion. Your son is the chosen one. You're just a guy trying to save your family and stop an ancient evil along the way. DQ5 didn't come west until the DS remake in 2009, so most people missed it, but it's the most narratively ambitious Dragon Quest, and the life simulation structure makes it unforgettable. The emotional beats, losing your father, the slave years, choosing your wife, your kids growing up, they all land because the game earns them.
Number 14. Final Fantasy IV, SNES. Final Fantasy IV is the game that proved JRPGs could tell complex, character-driven stories, and it set the template for everything that came after. Cecil's arc from Dark Knight to Paladin is the blueprint for redemption stories in gaming. He's committed atrocities under orders, and the game makes him confront that. The moment he climbs Mount Ordeals and faces his dark side is iconic. The character rotation is genius. Party members leave, die, or seem to, and return. It keeps the story dynamic and stops you from getting too comfortable. Teller's sacrifice, Palam and Porum turning to stone, Yang's fake-out death, these moments hit hard because the game makes you care. The ATB system was revolutionary. Combat is real-time with a gauge that fills for each character, so you can't just sit and think forever. It adds urgency and became the standard for Final Fantasy going forward. The job variety is built into the characters. Rydia's summons, Edge's ninjutsu, Rosa's white magic, Kane's jumps, everyone has a defined role, and the game teaches you to use them all effectively. The difficulty is high, especially in the SNES version. Bosses can wipe you, and resource management matters. The GBA and PSP versions balanced it better, but the challenge is part of the appeal. Final Fantasy IV is where Final Fantasy became Final Fantasy. The epic scope, the emotional storytelling, the memorable characters, it all started here.
Number 13, Chrono Cross, PlayStation. Chrono Cross is the most divisive sequel in JRPG history, and I'm here to tell you it's brilliant. Yes, it's not Chrono Trigger 2. Yes, it sidelines the original cast. Yes, the story is confusing as hell. But if you meet it on its own terms, Chrono Cross is a masterpiece. The parallel world system is the hook. You're swapping between two timelines where your choices in one affect the other. The game explores the butterfly effect, fate versus free will, and the consequences of messing with time. It's heady, philosophical, and doesn't spell everything out for you. The combat system is unique. No MP, spells are consumable elements you equip and use in battle. The field effect changes based on what elements are used, and exploiting that is key to strategy. It's not as immediately satisfying as Trigger's dual techs, but it's deeper once you understand it. The 40-plus recruitable characters is both a strength and a weakness. Most don't get much development, but the variety and play styles and the fact that you can't recruit everyone in one playthrough adds replay value. And the music. Yasunori Mitsuda outdid himself. Time Scar, Dream of the Shore Near Another World, Radical Dreamers, it's one of the greatest RPG soundtracks ever. The connection to Chrono Trigger in the final act is heartbreaking if you let it be. The fate of Shala, the reveal about Surge, the bittersweet ending, it's earned even if the path there is messy. Chrono Cross deserves a second chance. Stop expecting Trigger 2 and experience one of the most ambitious, most beautiful JRPGs on PS1.
Number 12, Final Fantasy X, PlayStation 2. Final Fantasy X was the first mainline FF on PS2, the first with full voice acting, and it's still one of the most emotionally devastating games in the series. The story is a pilgrimage to defeat Shin, but it's really about Tidus and Yuna falling in love while knowing their time is limited. The romance is earnest, awkward, and genuine. The laughing scene is mocked constantly, but in context, it's a beautiful moment of two people trying to find joy despite everything. The sphere grid is the leveling system, and it's fantastic. You're moving characters along a grid, unlocking stat boosts and abilities. You can keep characters in their lanes or break them out into other paths for hybrid builds. It's flexible and satisfying. Blitzball is either the best minigame in FF or an annoying distraction. There's no middle ground. But the world building it adds, showing you Spira's culture and history through a sport, is smart. The Aeon system makes summons playable characters in battle. You're controlling them directly, using their abilities, and they can tank hits for your party. Yojimbo and Anima are nightmare fuel in the best way. The twist about Yu Yvonne, the truth about Sin's cycle, Tidus's entire existence, it all builds to a conclusion that earns its tears. The ending is perfect and heartbreaking. FF10 also has some of the best optional content in the series. The Dark Aeons, Penance, the Monster Arena. There's so much post-game challenge. FF10 is peak Final Fantasy. It's the last time the series felt truly cohesive and confident in its identity before the experiments of 12 and 13. Number 11, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Nintendo Switch. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is the culmination of everything Monolith Soft learned from XC1, XC2, and X, and it's their masterpiece. The premise is brutal. Soldiers in this world only live 10 years, 10 terms, and they're born to fight in an endless war.
When they die, they're sent off in a ceremony where their comrades thank them for their sacrifice. It's bleak, and the game doesn't flinch from that. Noah and Mio are from opposing sides, but they discover they can combine into Ouroboros, fused forms that give them power beyond normal soldiers. The six-person party and the themes of connection, life, and breaking cycles of violence are the emotional core. The combat is real-time with positioning, class switching, chain attacks, and fusion forms. It's the most mechanically complex Xenoblade, but once it clicks, it's incredible. The class system lets every character learn abilities from different roles, so customization is massive. The world design is stunning. Massive open areas, colonies you help rebuild, secret areas everywhere. The sense of exploration is unmatched. The story gets metaphysical and weird, especially with the connection to XC1 and XC2 in the DLC. But the emotional beats, Mio and Noah's relationship, party's determination to defy their fates, the ending, it all lands. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is a statement game. It's Monolith Soft at their absolute peak, delivering a JRPG that's mechanically deep, narratively ambitious, and emotionally resonant. If you have a Switch and you love JRPGs, this is mandatory.
Now at number 10, we've got Dragon Quest XI, Echoes of an Elusive Age. This is your ultimate traditional JRPG. It's not trying to reinvent anything. It's just doing classic JRPG design better than anyone else possibly could. The story hits every classic beat. You're the Luminary, a chosen hero destined to save the world. You gather a party, explore towns and dungeons, fight the Dark Lord. It's predictable until Act 2 flips everything. The villain wins, the world is destroyed, and you have to pick up the pieces and find a way to fix it. The party is fantastic. Eric is your best friend and a thief with a tragic past. Veronica and Serena are twin mages with opposite personalities. Sylvando is a flamboyant entertainer with the biggest heart in the game. Jade is a warrior princess. Hendrik is a knight questioning his loyalty. Rab is the wise old sage. They're all tropes, but they're executed so well that it doesn't matter. The turn-based combat is pure comfort. It's not flashy, but it's perfectly balanced. The pep power system adds special team attacks when characters get hyped up in battle. The exploration is rewarding. Finding mini medals, treasure chests, recipes for crafting, there's always something to discover. The post-game content is massive, with super bosses that will wreck you. DQ11 is the platonic ideal of a traditional JRPG. It's the game you hand someone when they ask, "What's a JRPG?" and you want them to fall in love with the genre. It's comfort, it's excellence, and it's proof that you don't need to reinvent the wheel when the wheel is this perfect.
Number 9. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, PlayStation 5. Rebirth is the middle chapter of the FF7 Remake trilogy, and it's the Empire Strikes Back of this series. Bigger, darker, and somehow better than what came before. The open world sections are massive. You're exploring regions, doing side quests, bonding with party members, and the world feels alive in a way Remake's Midgar couldn't be. Riding chocobos, finding summon crystals, clearing towers, it's packed with content without feeling like filler. The combat is peak action RPG. Synergy attacks between party members add new combos, every character feels distinct and satisfying to play, and the boss fights are spectacle. The Junon Parade, the Gold Saucer dates, the Nibelheim flashback, it's all elevated. And then there's the ending. If you know the original, you know what's supposed to happen at the Forgotten Capital. Rebirth takes that moment and twists it into something that's either brilliant or blasphemous, depending on who you ask. The multiverse elements, the uncertainty about Aerith's fate, Sephiroth's manipulation, it's bold, and it's going to define how people feel about this trilogy. The character work is incredible. Tifa's arc, Barrett's development, Red 13 finally getting his moment, Yuffie integrating into the party, everyone gets their time.
and Cloud's mental deterioration is handled with real weight. Rebirth is proof that the FF7 Remake project is more than a nostalgia cash-in. It's a reimagining that respects the original while taking huge creative swings. You might not love every choice, but you can't deny the ambition.
Number 8. Final Fantasy VI on the SNES. Final Fantasy VI is the most narratively ambitious game in the series, and Kefka is the best villain in JRPG history. Not the most complex, not the most sympathetic, the best. Because Kefka wins. Halfway through the game, he destroys the world. The apocalypse happens, and you have to deal with it. The world of ruin is bleak, hopeless, and the game makes you work to rebuild your party and find reasons to keep fighting. The ensemble cast is brilliant. There's no single protagonist. Everyone gets moments to shine. Celeste's opera scene, Terra's struggle with her identity, Locke's grief over Rachel, Shadow's tragic backstory, Scion losing his entire family. Every character has weight. The Esper system lets you customize everyone's magic, so party composition is flexible. You can build characters however you want, and experimenting with different magicite combinations is half the fun. The final dungeon requires you to split into 3 parties, and the final boss is a multi-phase gauntlet, culminating in Kefka's nihilistic rant about the meaninglessness of life. And the ending, where every character gets a moment as the world is saved, is perfect. The pixel art is gorgeous. Nobuo Uematsu's soundtrack is his best work. Dancing Mad alone is a 17-minute prog rock final boss theme that's legendary. Final Fantasy VI is the best 2D Final Fantasy, the best written Final Fantasy, and for a lot of people, the best Final Fantasy, period. If you've only played the 3D games, you owe it to yourself to experience this.
Number 7. Final Fantasy VII, PlayStation. Final Fantasy VII is the game that brought JRPGs to the mainstream, and its impact is impossible to overstate. The materia system is genius. Magic and abilities are tied to orbs you equip, and you can mix and match them freely. Pairing a materia with all to cast spells on the entire party, or linking elemental materia to armor for absorption. The customization is endless. The story starts as eco-terrorism and expands into corporate conspiracy, genetic experimentation, and cosmic threats. Cloud's unreliable narrator status, the twist at the Forgotten Capital, Sephiroth's god-complex descent, it's layered and ambitious. Aerith's death is still one of the most shocking moments in gaming, not because character deaths were new, but because of how sudden and brutal it was. No dramatic final words, no resurrection, just gone. The world building is incredible. Midgar is oppressive and industrial. The Gold Saucer is a neon playground. Cosmo Canyon is mystical. The Northern Crater is hellish. Every location has atmosphere. The limit break system, the summons, the optional super bosses like Emerald and Ruby Weapon. There's so much depth. FF7's problem is that its legacy is so massive, it's hard to separate the game from the cultural phenomenon. But strip away the remakes, the spin-offs, the discourse, the original FF7 is still a masterpiece. It's ambitious, it's weird, it's confident, and it changed gaming forever.
Final Fantasy VIII, PlayStation. Final Fantasy VIII is the most divisive mainline Final Fantasy, and I'm putting it this high because when it works, it's transcendent. The junction system is polarizing. You draw magic from enemies and junction it to stats to make yourself stronger. It's breakable, you can become absurdly overpowered early if you grind magic, but it's also strategic and rewards experimentation. The story is a romance first, save the world plot second. Squall and Renoa's relationship is the heart of the game, and it's handled with surprisingly maturity. Squall's growth from closed-off loner to someone who lets people in is a genuine arc. The orphanage twist is either brilliant or stupid, depending on your tolerance for melodrama. The time compression mechanic and Ultimecia's plan are confusing but thematically rich. The world is beautiful. Balam Garden as a mobile headquarters, the futuristic Esthar, the haunted Sentra ruins, it's visually stunning.
The FMV cutscenes were mind-blowing in 1999 and still hold up. Eyes on Me is the best vocal theme in Final Fantasy history. The ballroom scene is iconic. Triple Triad is the best minigame in any FF. The card game is so good that people play it independently of the main game. FF8 is weird, ambitious, and refuses to play it safe. It's my personal favorite Final Fantasy because it's willing to be divisive. It doesn't care if you don't like the junction system or the story. It commits fully to its vision, and I respect that.
Number 5, Persona 3 Reload. Persona 3 Reload is the definitive version of the game that started it all for modern Persona, and it's a masterclass in atmosphere, theming, and emotional devastation. The premise is dark. There's a hidden hour between midnight and 1 a.m. called the Dark Hour, where monsters roam and normal people are trapped in coffins. You're part of SEES, a group of students who can summon personas by shooting themselves in the head with evokers. It's edgy, but it works because the game commits to the symbolism, facing death to gain power, confronting your mortality to find meaning. The social link system is where Persona became Persona. You're building relationships with classmates, teachers, and people around town, and those bonds make your personas stronger. It's genius design. Your social life directly impacts your combat effectiveness, so every choice about how you spend your time matters. The calendar system creates natural tension. You're balancing dungeon crawling in Tartarus with maxing social links, improving stats, and managing your schedule. Every day is a choice, and you can't do everything in one playthrough. The story builds slowly, but when it hits, it destroys you. The truth about death, Ryoji's reveal, the final choice you have to make, and that ending? Persona 3 is about accepting mortality, finding meaning in the time you have, and the bonds that make life worth living. It's heavy, it's beautiful, and it earns every tear. Reload modernizes the combat with quality of life improvements from Persona 5, adds voice acting to social links, and refines the presentation. If you've never played Persona 3, this is the version. If you have, it's worth experiencing again. Persona 3 is the most thematically cohesive game in the series, and it's proof that JRPGs can tackle existential philosophy without losing heart.
Number 4, Xenogears. Xenogears is the most ambitious, most flawed, most fascinating JRPG ever made, and it's not even close. The story is insane. Religious allegory, reincarnation, psychological trauma, mecha combat, deicide. It's trying to tackle everything. And for the first disc, it mostly works. The conspiracy, the plot twists, the character development, it's gripping. Then disc 2 happens. Development constraints and time limitations force the team to change approach. Characters narrate what happened instead of you playing it. Large portions become visual novel-style storytelling. It's one of the most infamous compromises in gaming history, and it absolutely hurts the pacing. But even with these limitations, Xenogears is incredible. The combat system mixing martial arts and gear battles is unique. The character customization with death blows is satisfying. The music by Yasunori Mitsuda is some of the best in the genre. The philosophy and religious themes are heady. Gnosticism, Freud, Jung, Nietzsche. It's dense, sometimes too dense, but it's reaching for something most JRPGs don't attempt. Xenogears' tragedy is that we'll never get the full version the creators envisioned. Square prioritized Final Fantasy VIII's development, leaving Xenogears unable to fully realize its vision. But even incomplete, even janky, even frustrating, Xenogears is essential. It proves that ambition and vision matter even when execution falls short.
Number 3, The Legend of Heroes: Trails in the Sky, PSP and PC. Trails in the Sky is the beginning of the most interconnected, most meticulously crafted JRPG universe ever made, and it's criminally underrated because people bounce off the slow start. Here's the thing, Trails in the Sky is a slow burn. The first 20 hours are spent doing odd jobs as junior bracers, helping townspeople and learning about the world. It feels small scale, almost slice of life. And then the second half happens, and everything you thought you understood gets flipped.
Estelle and Joshua's relationship is the heart of the game. They're adoptive siblings with chemistry that evolves naturally over the course of the trilogy. The moment at the end of FC where Joshua's past is revealed and he disappears, it's gut-wrenching because you've spent 50+ hours with these characters. The world building is unmatched. Every NPC has a name, a routine, and dialogue that updates constantly. The political intrigue between Liberal, Erebonia, and Calvard set up conflicts that pay off games later. The Ouroboros organization is a slow-burn antagonist that spans the entire series. Combat is tactical turn-based on a grid. Positioning matters. Arts, magic, and crafts skills require strategic timing, and the orbment system for customizing spells is deep. The Sky Trilogy is 200 hours, and it's the foundation for Trails from Zero, Trails to Azure, Cold Steel 1 through 4, Trails into Reverie, and the upcoming Kai no Kaseki. It's one continuous story across a decade of games, and it all starts here. If you can commit to the pacing and trust that the payoff is worth it, Trails in the Sky is one of the most rewarding JRPG experiences ever. It's the definition of slow-burn masterpiece.
Number 2. Dragon Quest, an entire series legacy. Dragon Quest isn't just a series, it's the foundation of the entire JRPG genre. Without Dragon Quest, there is no Final Fantasy, no Pokemon, no Persona, no Chrono Trigger. Everything we love about JRPGs started here. Dragon Quest I in 1986 codified the basic structure: turn-based combat, experience points, leveling up, exploring towns and dungeons, fighting a demon lord. It was inspired by Wizardry and Ultima, but Yuji Horii made it accessible, streamlined, and narrative-focused in a way Western RPGs weren't. Dragon Quest III introduced the job system. 4 introduced chapter-based storytelling with multiple protagonists. 5 pioneered monster recruitment and generational storytelling. 6 refined dual worlds. 7 was a 100-hour epic. 8 brought the series into 3D beautifully. 9 made it multiplayer. 10 went MMO. 11 perfected the formula. The series is conservative by design. It doesn't chase trends. It doesn't reinvent itself every entry. It just iterates, refines, and delivers the most polished traditional JRPG experience possible. Akira Toriyama's art is iconic. Koichi Sugiyama's orchestral scores are legendary, despite his controversial personal views. The puns, the slimes, the "you are dead, game over" screen, it's all part of gaming culture. In Japan, Dragon Quest is a cultural phenomenon. New releases are national events. The series is so beloved that there's an urban legend, probably false, but the sentiment is real, that games can only release on weekends so people don't skip work. Dragon Quest deserves this spot not because any single game is the #1 JRPG, but because the series as a whole is the JRPG. It's the blueprint, the standard, the legacy. Everything else is built on this foundation.
Number 1, Chrono Trigger, SNES. Chrono Trigger is the greatest JRPG ever made. Not the most complex, not the longest, not the most mechanically deep, the greatest. And here's why. Chrono Trigger is perfect. There is no filler. Every dungeon, every era, every character moment serves a purpose. The pacing is immaculate. You're traveling through time, prehistory, the Middle Ages, the apocalyptic future, the end of time itself, and every era feels distinct, essential, and alive. The combat is ATB with positioning. Where enemies are on the battlefield matters for dual techs and triple techs, combination attacks between party members, Chrono and Lucas Fire Sword, Frog and Robo's Heal Beam. The animations, the strategy, the satisfaction of landing a perfect combo, it's flawless. The cast is small but perfectly realized. Chrono is the silent protagonist done right. His actions define him. Marle is the rebellious princess. Luca is the genius inventor dealing with guilt over her mother's accident. Frog is the tragic knight seeking redemption. Robo is the robot learning humanity. Isla is the cave woman warrior. Magus is the villain turned ally with the best redemption arc in gaming. The story is simple: stop Lavos from destroying the world, but the execution is brilliant. The multiple endings, over a dozen depending on when and how you defeat Lavos, give absurd replay value. New Game Plus lets you carry over your progress and see different outcomes. The soundtrack by Yasunori Mitsuda and Nobuo Uematsu is the best in gaming. Chrono Trigger, Frog's theme, To Faraway Times, Corridors of Time, every track is iconic. There are no random encounters. Every battle is designed. The game respects your time. The ending is earned, whether you get the bittersweet default ending where Chrono's sacrifice is reversed, or one of the alternate endings, it feels complete. Chrono Trigger is lightning in a bottle, the dream team of Hironobu Sakaguchi, Yuji Horii, and Akira Toriyama, creating something that transcends the sum of its parts. It's a game with no weaknesses, no wasted moments, and no reason to exist except to be the best possible version of itself. It's been nearly 30 years and nothing has topped it. Not because other games haven't tried, but because Chrono Trigger is the platonic ideal of a JRPG. It's the game you point to when someone asks, "Why do you love this genre?" Chrono Trigger is #1 because it's timeless, perfect, and proves that when everything comes together, story, gameplay, music, art, pacing, you get something that transcends gaming and becomes art.
So there you have it. 50 games, 50 masterpieces. From Phantasy Star 2's bleak sci-fi to Chrono Trigger's timeless perfection. Some of these picks made you nod, some made you mad. That's fine. That's what makes this fun. JRPGs are deeply personal. The game that changed your life might be number 37 on this list, and that's valid. But if you're new to the genre, or if you're a veteran looking to fill gaps in your backlog, this list is your roadmap. These are the games that defined JRPGs, pushed boundaries, told unforgettable stories, and proved that turn-based combat and melodramatic storytelling can create some of the most meaningful experiences in gaming. Thanks for sticking with me through all 50. Now get out there and play something legendary.